Hello. Oh, I immediately unplugged my head. I should have filled my water bottle before I went live. Oh, I'm dumb, man. Well, thus is thus. We're streaming. It's a party in the USA. We're playing Baldur's Gate and Final Fantasy 13-3. A fun video game. Instead of 13-2, which is not a fun video game. Show genitals. Show genitals, my bar's seminal. I don't think I have anything else to say. I feel not great. Occlusion quality. Whoa. Golly. I really what I was gonna say. We're playing Baldur's Gate, we're playing Final Fantasy, it's just a standard stream. There's nothing special about it. I really wish I filled my water bottle up. A hit of that cold water shit do be sounding good right now. I really gotta move my... Oh my god, everybody in Baldur's Gate is... I chose a terrible spot. Wait, I gotta walk away from this area. Everyone is just talking and making noises. Let me walk away to a quieter part of town. Okay. That completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, I don't know, we're playing games. There's not much to say. Just a little earlier today. I wanted to start... Well, I guess I'll wait for William.
In my soup.
Fury in the Marrow. When you rage, hostile creatures in a 3-meter radius must succeed. Oh, I forgot about that. I haven't been raging very much because everybody's so weak. Me when I shatter my ribs?
My rippling ribs.
Alright, I'm gonna transition to the game because I have 2 music tracks playing right now and it's turning my brain into goo. I wanted to start with, because I have a lot of money now, I know there's something I wanted to buy at a store that was very expensive. I want to look at that again. I think it was that no, not the Apothecary. It was like a church or something. The Elfsong Tab? No, that's not it. The Stormshore Tabernacle. That's what it was. I'm gonna do some shopping to start. And then I guess we're gonna, I don't know if there's anywhere to poke around still for Thumbo. I want to look kind of more through the Heapside Strands, because it looks like there could be abandoned buildings there, but we might just end up accepting fella's deal.
Welcome back, child of...
Oh my god!
You've come far, I perceive.
I do come far, I
Aye,
perceive.
sir. Of course, my child. Within limits.
You had something I wanted, right?
Hold my way.
Crusader's Mantle. Radiate a holy power that emboldens nearby allies. Their weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage. I mean, Cloak of Displacement is so good. I could use rings that don't suck. While your Sorceress Tides of Chaos feature is activated, you've lost me. Okay, what's this do? Gust of Wind. Summon a strong wind that clears all clouds and pushes creatures back, forcing them off balance. Or Ride the Wind. Transform into a cloud, becoming resistant to all damage. You know what? That's not really my style. Makes it easier for the wearer to succeed death saving throws. Excuse me?
I never died.
Well, like I could just buy potions, but I mean that's. I barely need to use potions either. I like don't. I like really.
Too dank.
I heal myself with this sword now. Like I'm really quite invincible. We should have played Honor. Actually, Honor mode wasn't out when we started our save, so I guess we couldn't have done that. Clearly the challenge wasn't high enough. Though I say that in our early game was both of us being really confused. And not knowing how to play. I swear there's something you had that I really wanted, but you have nothing that looks that great. Maybe I bought it already? I thought he had two things I really wanted, and I guess... not. Clown Hammer. What's this? Elixir of Heroism. 10 temporary hit points that become bleached.
Blast.
Like, I don't know. I'm not even gonna buy potions. I don't know. Just give me your money. Give me your fucking money. I'm legit better pray in this hoe.
This altar isn't dedicated to a single god, but instead acts as a conduit to many.
Lame.
Your god is one of many, and in this place you sense a spark of its mighty divine flame. The gods are ready to receive your joyful donation.
I'm not... Fuck a god. If they're so great, why do they need me to give them money? What the hell do they need money for in the astral plane? Losers!
Get a job!
Get a job, you dirty bum god. God bum. Ooh, it's
God
a
bum.
god that is a bum. It's God bum. Ooh. Where are the other stores? There's gotta be a store around here somewhere that offers something I care about. Hello, refugee. Prayer of, What's up, Leary? Whoa! Oh, right, I forgot I auto-join combos. That's very jarring. What's this building? This is the Elf Song Tavern, okay. Des Canshaw, I get it. Like Des Testicles. Do I know you?
Literature department. Can I help you?
Maybe being pulled into every conversation is a little much.
Aye. Pull up a seat. If you can find one spare, that is.
Business going well?
Talk of war. What else are folk to do but drink?
Heroin?
Reckon the murder would had something to do with it too. Got punters all intrigued. On that morbid note, what can I get you fine self?
Trade.
It's been slim picking since the Absolute butchered that supply convoy. But have a look.
Who the hell is Slim Pickens? All you have is food. I have infinity food. Fill my boots with what? Bombasto.
I sure wouldn't want to be one of the
Bombastic.
They got the shittiest job in town. Believe me, I know something about knocking heads together.
Yeah.
What do you wear? Medium?
I'm all medium. My bar's speedium. Yeah. Waldo Walnut. Come on, man. I just want a set of armor that is 40 AC and has a rocket launcher mounted on the shoulder. What are you looking at, Bunt Chugly?
Every headline at the moment's about the late Lord Gortash. Maybe I'll raise a cup in his memory.
You hicked wrong. You hicked when you should have hucked.
Hee.
One Duke murdered?
Bars.
That's bad luck. Two? That's cause for public concern.
Yeah. I don't care, man. Maybe get cooler dukes that aren't murderable.
This guy has armor.
Does he have arms? I already went to him. He just did that, but did they go? I went to him at the end of the last stream.
What can I do for you? Of course. Won't be alive to hold him.
I'm pretty sure Damon doesn't have anything I want. Armor of Persistence. Well, that's pretty good. It's only $19,000. You gain resistance and blade ward. Alright, that's pretty good. Just all the time is kind of crazy. You gain freedom of movement and long strider. Move speed and move speed can't be reduced by difficult terrain. I think I just have that by default. I think I just unlocked that. You disappoint me, Damon. I guess this is like the only thing, but like that's too much for my blood. I have too much blood. But if I offered you all these, how much is that? Not enough. Okay, see ya. Alright, I found one thing I want that's extremely expensive, but I have a goal now. I can start saving up.
I forgot Lizelle.
It's the death
Who?
of Gortash, the flaming.
Exactly.
More like loser hell. Hey, Lizelle. I was just kidding. Oh, bye. Alright, I'm gonna go to Bloomerage Park, I guess. I just want to see, there's like at least a little bit not uncovered there, so. Or I guess you already have sheep sides there, and we can. You know, you could just go separately, I'm sure. Can't imagine nothing too crazy's gonna happen.
Store's red, but I'm gonna open it anyway. Who's inside?
I'm failing survival checks. Butter bun.
fucking cold
Butter
in
bun. Butter bun. There's so much free balsam. Hello, Thaki, Eldoranth, Vistra, and Rickety Chair.
There's a hatch here.
The city's gone down the gutter recently. All these attacks. It's no
I
good.
feel like this just opens up into the
Yes, being attacked is bad. Hot take.
God's
The
not
goons.
seen action like that in an age. Hope I don't have to again.
Damn shame to see all this violence. I'd hoped that was all behind me.
That's crazy.
In the old days, those troublemakers would never have got so close to civvies.
Okay, idiot. Yeah, just some losers talking about Paula Dean.
Whatever comes.
Halloween.
God, what have I done? No, don't cast magic spells on people in the park.
Area under investigation. Open the fuck up. Click.
Click, click, boom. Come on, everybody, come on. What's up, Fist Moss?
There's a dead guy in here, but I don't care.
Anyone here could be a cultist. Back, I say!
That's a terrible tattoo, my man. You have a fire neck. Not like you don't got a fire neck, you got a fire neck. You know what I'm saying?
It's what? What lit up?
I found a beautiful little water full of delicious wispweed. I'm legit smoking the wispweed. Right, gamers? I'm so alone. Survival failed. Well, that's fun. Survival successful. We've never been punished for digging up weird things before. 300 gold, a diamond, and a scroll of Hold a Monster. Okay. Let's take that.
Okay, apparently there's someone evil in this guy's basement.
What? Look, I'm done over here. I'll pop over. Whoop. How evil are we talking? Are we talking like Gortash, where he like is evil but he sucks at it? Or are we talking like Orin, where she is evil but she sucks at it, but like a little less?
I don't know. He said he's gonna spread his body parts in the basement.
Okay, maybe we should get him. How did you even get in there?
You are blind.
There's a big fucking barricade in front of the door. What do you mean I'm blind?
What? I broke it.
Oh. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Except on my screen it's still there, so I can't walk in. It's just there.
Can you hit it?
No, it's
Oh.
maybe I'll reload. Yeah, my screen there's just there's just wall. Oh, I want to rip my head open and eat my own brain.
Brain eating.
Odd parents, fairly odd parents. They got a gun. Run. Parents. Yeah, right. Do you know in the last episode of Fairly Odd Parents, they tore Vicky limb from limb?
Did they eat her?
They said, I'm sick of you being mean to me. And then they peeled her fingernails off. And that was cool. And it was really empowering.
To who?
Me. Mom
What?
and Dad and Vicky are always feeding Timmy hands. Get a faster computer, man.
I'm bored.
Why? When? Oh, yeah, it's gone now. That's fun. Perception failed.
That might be worth a look.
Ooh.
That might be worth a look.
Huh. There's a flaming
God
green
damn,
heart.
he is massive.
Courageous little Kimabith.
You were a little one once. You had a life worth living.
Huh.
Why is he huge?
Oh, hey, a clown's severed arm. Yagashura II, the effigy of Yagashura who burned his mortality. What use his heart? He thought himself a titan, but died whispering for his mother. Below is an exaggerated signature written in blood, or in the red. She really had a lot of. She really got around this one. Am I right, gamers? No, she sucks though.
Better not be cursed. Hello?
Dear Mr. Peartree, you come highly recommended by a select few, not merely for your business acumen, but also for your ambition. This is why I am writing to you. A question of ambition. I have in my possession a tremendous quantity of infernal iron. Its acquisition is immaterial. What matters is this. I shall need assistance distributing the weapons forged from this exquisite iron. I shall need someone ambitious, someone with less than scrupulous connections, someone, Mr. Peartree, like yourself. That, Mr. Peartree, was the carrot. I often find it makes an excellent bedfellow to the stick. Consider your position. A less than scrupulous set of connections doesn't make you valuable to me. It would also make you invaluable to any number of upstart city watchmen or flaming fists ready to make rank. It would really be a terrible tragedy for such bright potential to be extinguished in this way. I eagerly await your correspondence. Yours in faith, Enver Gortash. Gortash sure writes like someone who wants to sound smart.
Use big words. Like the.
Like them. Oh. This book presents a guide on which devils to bargain with for what. One must choose which devil they deal with using utmost vigilance. Remember, devils are not only fiends, they're bastards. I once knew a man who asked for ultimate protection against his enemies from a devil of Dispater. He was transported into an impregnable iron fortress deep underground, one without doors, so pick and choose with caution, friends. For matters of money, creatures of Minaris can best salve your woes. For matters of pleasure or pain, face the fiery folk of Phlegethos. This tone continues the same way. It's okay. Explain.
There's someone's heart at you. It was in the fire.
This book feels important. It's just about different demons. Alright. Well, this is, as per usual, pretty fucked up.
There's a strong box in here to get in. I don't have the key.
Move, you fucking... My back. My pussy, my crack.
Shouldn't be too hard.
Been really into throwing people lately. It's a 15. I got enough. Oh, that's a 1. Ooh, me mama shimba. There we go. Two soul coins. Half plate armor plus literally the armor I'm wearing. And a sword that's not very good. Man, if we ever use soul coins, there's like just a whole angle that's not being explored. I mean, I guess there's several. There are thousands.
Hundreds, maybe.
4. My gratitude. Dear Mr. Peartree, our business proceeds without fault and with lucrative profit. You will find this success reflected in the upcoming deposit to your personal account. Should you continue to be such a willing tool, I can see many more deposits of similar magnitude making their way into your coffers in future. I saw you spent the last payment with exceptional wisdom. Your new abode in the lower city is rather lovely. Men of both means and taste are exceedingly rare these days, and I would be so distraught were you to lose this beautiful home to a terrible accident of fate. Discretion is a key pillar of continued home ownership, after all. You need not respond to this letter outright if you are needed further. Yours in faith, Enver Gortash. So did he do something and then they killed him? This ledger records acquisitions and sales in Gortash's infernal weapons trade, infernal iron acquired from diabolical sources used thereof in forging enhanced arms and armor, and sales and distribution through Gortash's network and to other wholesalers such as the Zentarim and the Knights of the Shield. This final entry is as follows. Note for Lord Gortash, the Knights organization appears to be collapsing, and sales to them are in steep decline. However, this is more than made up for by shipments to our new contacts in and the Ant Kotla receipts next month should make everyone happy. Pear tree. Then why
Man,
did
I
they,
don't know where Thrumbo is.
Then why did they kill him?
I don't know if they killed. I think Orin killed him.
Oh yeah, that makes sense actually. I came down to earth.
I screamed in my pants.
But neither of these guys seem to be Mr. Pear Tree.
The pear tree's at the top.
Oh, that was him. Okay. So Orin just fucked with Gortash because she can.
Yeah, he's the dead guy in the living room.
Dead guy in the living room? It was not me. The manager told me butt naked.
I'm butt naked.
I'd love to, thanks.
I got a butt, I got a butt, I got a butt, I got a butt.
Stop.
I don't know where Thrumbo is. This man is elusive.
Soul coins. Until long rest. Still not interested. I guess I'll just sell them. Oh, it has like its own noise when you move it in your inventory. Because it's evil.
Yeah.
Eel. I wanted to put the green fire out, but I don't want to waste its cast on it. Actually, I don't know why I care. Nope, it didn't feel like going out.
I must keep going.
Fair.
What if I crush the heart? It's invincible. Invincible. It's a heart, damn it. It's a miracle! Females are strong as hell.
Where are you hiding, Thrumbo?
You've been picking where you shouldn't, Pear Tree, placing the lordling's fire spitters throughout my city. Disgusting. They leave no blood, there's no art to it all, just burnt ash and corpse cinder. I walk through your basement here as I pen this. It's rather large, roomy. They never find all the bits of you if I spread them out here properly. Wait, hold up, what is this? Messy splatters of deep red-brown adorn this scrap of parchment. Those wishing to face the Dread Lord's tribunal and enter the Temple of Maul must slay the targets on this list. Oh, this is just another list of murder men.
Murder men. Some murder.
We're not lost. Just taking in the view before continuing on our way.
Liar.
Display. There's nothing random about it.
Who the fuck said that? Don't call me Runt. Is that your name?
Go Humberry.
That'll be the last thing I do. I mean, you do. Shit!
We are all going to die.
Mess with us and it'll be the last thing I do.
True.
Hey, who shit my pants?
Who put poopy in my dumpy?
Stop! What are you doing? Are you trying to sneak past Tusk Grunts?
No.
Do not worry. Guild's friends are Tusk Grunts' friends.
That's crazy.
Don't hurt my friends. Unless they deserve.
Maybe we should go talk to Nine Fingers after we've, you know, murdered their What do you mean attitude down? Fuck y'all, all y'all. If y'all don't like me, good.
I don't think we can.
I can do whatever I want. Watch this. Makes me laugh every time. I could say whatever I want. Watch this.
Wah.
I broke into a house and I found a hatch. Also a chest.
What about $7?
I mean, maybe I haven't opened the chest yet. I'm fucking might never at this rate. Golly. There are 2 trap disarm kits, thieves tools, and a guild ring. Calcite emeralds are embedded in this heavy silver ring, but it gives me nothing! I just want rings that don't stink. There's a hatch downwards, so... I guess I'm going in. If you care to join me. Oh, my rolls. I'm obese. Alright, I'm poking in.
Does it not just lead back into their hideout?
No, I thought that's why I went in. I figured it just was another way to get in, but it is not. But it's not. I don't know. It doesn't look like there's much in here, but I don't know. Oh, there's a lot of letters. What? Oh my god, okay. I gotta just pick all these letters up so I can sort through them. This is breaking my brain.
Oh my god, there's so many letters. There's a chest in there that's trapped. I failed my perception check on it.
I'm like, hey, what's up? Hello, got a trapped chest and she's got a banjo. Red apple. I feel like we shouldn't get into the habit of doing that in case it, like, explodes.
Oh, no one was near?
Well, I didn't even try it, man. We could have blown up with the sweet loot within. God, my rolls are just diarrhea lately. I ran... Oh, never mind. I thought I ran out of lockpicks. I forgot that was in lockpicking. I was just trapped. Why is it locked?
You'll never get out. See you later, loser.
Wait! Is she... Alright, wait, hold on. I gotta sift through all these letters. One sec. There's a bursar. Custom mean.
Custard the boy. Y'all seen a zombie around?
So it looks like this is just a bunch of guild dealings.
There's a hatch down here.
I have many letters to read. Please give me a moment. Yeah, just a lot of letters that seem to be, well, at least the first 4 seem to just be like guild dealings and like a lot of implication that the guilds are falling apart. a lot of stuff about the Stone Lord. Yeah, it's just a bunch of guild dealings, all different sorts of things. There are many different... A field report indicating the status of the guild's war against upstart new rival, the Stone Lord. Oscar Fetcher Halorn, Goblin Benny, Sewer Keepers, Bell Breakers, Children of Whore. Whoa, Black Betty, Children of Whore.
Whoa, Black.
Boss, better hear from me first. I broke peace with the Pashas last night. Their headman appeared in my court talking about how your day was done. He kept saying he knows you how you think, how you haven't got the taste for this fight with the Stone Lord. I've enclosed his finger.
What?
He put his finger in the letter. They broke his finger. Put it in a envelope.
I want to eat it.
Why can't I leave? Shadowheart, please. Shadowheart's broken. She won't move. Ever since the incident. She's confused. You alright, Shadowheart? Okay, she's good. Alright, where else is happening? Check out this platforming goodness. Check this. Oh, there's vines. Never mind. Okay.
Simply walk.
Simply walk. I just got a great idea for a new Chinese food restaurant. Beach House Hatchkey. This guy's fucking blind.
Hello?
Wow, it's awesome in here.
Holy shit.
Get a couple
Dark.
pool tables. Get a big blunt. Oh, there's definitely traps in here.
Yeah. Listen, lads. I can see the next one.
I love watching them writhe in agony. It's funny.
Boy.
Oh, Black Betty, big old ham. There's a lever?
See it. I done seen it. Yeah, yeet. What does the lever do?
Whoa, Dot Modus Paw. Thank you for the subscription. I think at some point I turned off the gooey cheese. I don't know when I did that, but thank you. Here, I'll play it off my computer. Streaming
I'll do it for you.
audio. Okay.
Sorry.
Wasn't even a little close. Here, there we go.
That was perfect. That's your new one. I hit it.
There you go. There you go. I played.
Thrumbo, you in here?
Oh,
Come
this
on,
is
he's
this
gotta
has
be in
thrombosis energy.
This is prime Thrumbo.
Dude, this is so cool. I would love that.
Shit.
This is such a cool. I would love to hang out in a place like this. Little closed, but like an opening to the water. Reminds me of the cottage when I wasn't too afraid to go there because it's hell. Watch this.
And then an apple would eat my puss.
That's why they call them old apple pussy.
Thrumbo, where are you, man? I don't. This is prime Thrumboness.
Thrombosis. Am I gonna disarm this damn chest? 15. Everything's a 15.
Well,
I did.
like the boys.
What? Potion
eat
of
them.
mind reading.
Nothing.
Burlap sack. Burlap sack. From Gussie. That's what I'm saying. Finally, someone gets me. Counting house safe number 6 key. Interesting. We got this key. We got the safe key for number 6. I'm gonna start keeping water bottles on me because I realized that I could probably just throw them at fires if I ever need to. How's it going, Spencer? I feel like we haven't talked in a fortnight. Get it?
Fortnite!
Shh. Fortnite! Hey, One Eye, sure I can get you and your wave surfing Philly out of town without Cap'n Grizzly or the flood tide knowing. Meet me at the abandoned beach house you know about when the moon rises on the night of 14th Marpenoth. Bring that begem dagger I like. Sneggers!
Ugh.
Scrawled beneath that in a different hand. 1486. 1486. Remember that. I don't know why, but do it.
What? Beach house?
We're in the beach house, you bitch house. This guy sucks! What? No!
What's gonna be happening?
My bone.
Jumbo!
See, I told you, just gotta be patient.
What the hell?
The stench is unmistakable. Death, decay.
See, you just gotta be a little patient, enjoy the journey, and we'll get there eventually.
The runaway mystic carrion was so eager for you to return.
Was he upstairs now?
This is my spot.
He was just in the wardrobe.
Oh, he's hiding.
Mystic Carrion. You're working for him?
I mean, not necessarily.
No. I knew he wouldn't let us leave in peace. You don't have to help him. He's the one you should be after, not me.
Yeah, we're not helping him.
What?
I mean, he does seem to have bad energy, but I would love an explanation.
You've met him. How can you need more justification than that?
Me,
Well,
when I
like-
meet a black person?
Murdered me. Murdered my
That's not funny.
Snatched us right up from the dockside and made us these things.
That's fair.
Monsters. Fit for gutting and grinding and desecrating the dead.
Tell me about the Sneggers guy.
Uses us.
I want to meet him.
The worst things you can imagine. There used to be 5 of us. My friend Dallas, he couldn't take it anymore. One day, I saw him drive a coffin nail right through Carrion's skull. Then another, and another. We thought he had done it. Freed us all. Then when dawn came, Talus seized up suddenly like something had got a grip of him. We ran to help, but he just exploded. I got so much blood and pulp in my eyes.
Ugh. Ugh. Pulp.
Carrion was just stood there, completely unharmed.
I feel like knowing how he brought himself back seems important.
If I knew that, I'd have tried to kill him myself.
That's fair.
I know this is gonna sound strange, but I've been watching him.
This guy looks like malnourished Pike.
I think he's a mummy lord.
He's a daddy lord. What the fuck is a mummy lord?
What?
He's an ancient, evil being who refused to die, who cannot die. I used to hear about them in stories.
Fortnite battle pass, I shit from my
I
ass.
can't think of another explanation.
Yeah.
After Talus died, Carrion blindfolded me and took me into a strange place. A foul and ancient place. Somewhere the living wouldn't dare to tread.
Detroit.
Down there, he showed me a jar. Said it contained the secret to eternal life. And if I behaved, he would share it with me.
It was kombucha, dumbass!
His heart.
Oh.
I'm not stupid. I know what he did to my friend. Gods, how I'd love to smash that bastard jar. That's how you kill mummy lords, you know.
You said you didn't know how to do that. Did he not just say he doesn't know? It's a weird oversight. Or no, I guess he said he doesn't know how he brought himself back, but he doesn't know. Not necessarily how to kill him.
Where is it?
In the house, beneath Carrion's salon, there's a chamber.
We cut hair?
There's anyone down there, so it must be hiding something important. Perhaps it's there. But be careful. If you return to Carrion, he'll know you spoke to me. Make sure he doesn't see or smell you.
Oh shit.
He'll turn you into one of us.
See or smell, so invisible doesn't work.
I don't want to die like Talus did. I want to live. Well, you know what I mean.
So I feel like, yeah, we can't just be invisible then. If he can smell us.
Surely you can't smell me with all my boys.
They do reek.
How do we get past him?
I have the perfect plan. I knock on the door. I say, hello, I'm delivering a package. You ordered a new motherboard for your computer? And he'll say, yes, I love building computers. And while I distract him and make him sign the papered work, you sneak in the back door. And you rip his ass off!
Ew.
Imagine getting your butt cheek tooken.
I mean, do you think he's gonna talk to us?
I think
I
think
like...
he will automatically talk if we're in range. That's what it seemed to be implying to me.
I feel like I could just walk upstairs.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Or maybe we trade off, you know?
I don't believe they'll
He wants to know about the necromancy book.
I have a better idea. I'm jumping up the back of his home.
Okay. Is there a way in up there? Oh yeah, there's a door.
Think he knows I'm up here?
Hopefully not. There's a door on the backside.
There's a door on my backside, if you know what I am saying. Imagine instead of an anus, we all little doors.
I'm chilling. We'll go in from both angles. I can't lockpick doors.
Think he'll hear me if I cave this door in?
I'm gonna hit this door with a fireball.
Great, green pike.
Surely he won't notice. Hello. Who the fuck are you?
What the hell are these?
Ligus?
I found his stable where he keeps all his ghouls. They're just like your guys.
Yeah. I also found one.
Ligus my damn balls, am I right?
Ghouls versus ghouls.
Man, these ones don't seem to want to fight me.
This one does.
But I can't talk to them either.
For me, we're all in a fight.
Oh, I'm not in combat. I'm just walking around. Am I in combat for you?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just... I don't feel like I'm supposed to be in the fight. I think I'll just join in the fight, so it... Because this feels... I don't know, I don't want to be cheesy.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm fighting Mystic Carrion.
Oh.
my ghouls are going for him.
Alright, I'll just hit someone to join the fight, because that feels like I definitely was supposed to be in the battle. I don't know, I feel like maybe you shouldn't have broken in and should have just let me do it. But I clearly had an advantageous position. I was on the damn roof, the most advantageous of all positions to have. Like in the Bible. Alright, well, we can fight our way through. I don't see why not. I do got a big thinner up here, if you know what I'm saying.
True. Just look for his jar of mayonnaise.
Well, it said it was under it. It said it was in his cellar. I was just hoping we could find...
Did you say cellar? I thought you said salon.
No, it said in his salon, in the cellar. I think. I don't know. He literally farts. Don't hit my wife! Only I hit my wife.
Boys, just go upstairs.
Can't use actions nauseous? Oh, that seems bad.
No. No, I don't think Carrion's fighting.
Well, way to dox me. Then why the hell are they in there?
I don't know why one of my ghouls has got in there, but I don't know. Get out of there!
Just kidding.
Good boy.
Hello. Sorry, wrong room.
Maybe he just thinks it's one of his servants, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh.
So get back upstairs!
Oh, this door's there. What if you just drop a chandelier on this damn brain? Can't use actions nauseous. I hate that. You're also nauseous, huh? I love this to have been. Ugh. Stinker. Stinker, I said.
Idiot.
I don't know if there's a nauseous cloud. I think I just need to back up out of it. I can't tell.
I think it lasts one turn.
You last one turn? What is this? What's Olnar doing? Stop trying to hit her. I've made this very clear that I don't appreciate
Fart again.
Oh my god.
Hope Carrion doesn't hear anything.
That doesn't have ears. Decayed ass bitch. Ew, that probably reeks. Musty water and stink floor. This place smells like goddamn sewage!
Pissy.
What? Frightened, same. I misclick?
Oh my god.
Oh, I can't do my other attack because I miss. Oh, wait, maybe I can. That's a bonus action, not a regular action. I'm cheating.
Yeah.
Ugh, Shadowheart, stop being nauseous. Grow up.
God, he's glowing.
I'm out of here. This railing's too high or I jump into the damn ocean. They have no destination.
Where are
in mind.
you
They're
going?
idiots. Why do you ever summon these fucking losers?
They do work. Oh my god. That's why. Look at him. Hello.
Let's make a mod where all the crossbows are assault rifles. I should make a mod where all the enemies are aliens, and instead of, between every fight, instead of exploring, you have to manage your base. And they can call it XCOM. Or something. I don't know. We'll let him cook, am I right? I did. I let him cook.
He's cooking milk?
Is that a question?
I don't know. Are you cooking milk?
Not lately.
Ligus.
Don't say that.
Rectus.
I found a book of written exercises, a series of writing exercises outlined by Thrumbo addressed to my brothers. Beneath the exercises, several misguided attempts to write the letters of the alphabet, none successful. Well, that's real sad. To sell all these books.
Evil!
Shh. Oh, good, a pile of viscera.
Father, carrying my arse.
Pardon me.
You're nothing but a scam artist. They say you're a necessary evil if we want to talk to our loved ones, but I say you're just plain evil. As soon as I have evidence enough to report you, you can expect a visit from the Fist. Better yet, the Steel Watch. Okay.
Knock knock.
He doesn't give a shit if we break down his doors,
He
so...
doesn't know we're here. We're stealthy.
He just thinks, you know, oh, all my boys upstairs are making a lot of fucking Jesus Christ.
Oh, this is the worst room yet.
Oh, it's so delicious. Now, where's the... We need Sybil. Sybil? Sybil?
Nope.
To his basement.
Does that take it? It looks like it might just take us into the room with them.
No, but we're behind it.
Oh, they're all climbing.
Ew! Why is he climbing upside down? It's like how I used to crawl up the stairs.
Okay, perfect. This is. I was thinking like there might be. It might loop around. There might be a way to do this. Okay, cool. He's none the wiser. Okay, so I'm thinking there might be more than his heart, because he has like the big juicy lungs and the green liver and the purple blancs.
This guy's got a whole lab.
In Dexter's laboratory, he has an immortal heart in a jar. Oh, there's another way. A hole, perhaps?
Holiness?
Maybe if I were a halfling.
Where's this jar?
Yeah, maybe if I was half the size.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if I was half the size. No chance. Yeah, maybe if I was half the size.
Oh.
I've got you, you know?
Sausage. Don't. No. Stop it. Elixir of necrotic resistance. That sounds like it could be useful very soon. In fact, I think I'll try one now. A mummy's memory. Some mortals might wonder why a mummy lord would abandon a subterranean crypt where he was abided for several human lifetimes, safely conducting delicate experiments into the very nature of life and its so-called opposite death, and trade all that for a perilous existence in a ramshackle waterfront house in the cesspit of Baldur's Gate. Some mortals might be morons. An entity of iridation and taste must naturally have a keen appreciation for what the surface world has to offer. The lilt of music and the lyricism of poetry, the cry of seagulls over Grey Harbor at sunset, the touch of a soft, non-decayed hand. You don't need a nose to savor a fine wine. All of these things and more I have earned through my dedication to esoteric studies, and all of these things as well are. I can't do it anymore.
Stop!
All of these things and more I have earned through my dedication to esoteric studies, but all of these things, as well as rare alchemy ingredients, alembics and athenors, cost money. A lot of it. Thus, my new career as a high-priced and exclusive mystic consultant to the wealthy of the upper city. I have needs, and they will not be denied. My man did this for cash. potions. Back to
Where's
devour
the
what I've
man?
been denied.
Just have it on him?
Yeah, he's got a heart in his pocket. What if he sits
I mean, they
it?
say he gets his ass knocked out, so maybe we just knock his ass out and then we take it.
Wait, what? What says... Who said he got his ass knocked out?
When they tried to kill him,
I
he
don't,
was down for a bit, and then the next morning, he died.
I don't think that's what they said. I think they said they thought he was dead and then someone exploded.
Yeah, it was a bit after.
You're a bit after. Am I right?
Wrong?
I don't know. I feel like they brought us down here for a reason. I mean, the quest updated when we got in here.
Yeah, and then the quest updated when you read the book.
I can't read. You've been tricked.
Now there's no quest thing down here.
Quest. I have a lot of money.
What's the point?
Discover the mystic Eridan used to work from an ancient subterranean crypt. If we found this lair, we're bound to someone. Oh, right, the crypt. We might have luck looking for it somewhere in the sewers.
Is it just the Undercity?
To the sewers we go. I guess
we just go to the
I guess,
Undercity
yeah, that makes
ruins.
sense. Where are we gonna look for a subterranean crypt? The sewers.
Crippen in my Jordans.
Jordan. It's a little song I wrote. It's called Jeff.
Now it's right in the mill.
What?
We'll see who can get to it first.
What is?
The crypt.
What crypt?
What?
Could you see it?
Yeah, it's on the map. The waypoint.
I don't see it.
Oh.
Must be nice.
Free the artist.
No, that's a different thing. Talk to Mr. Carrion about Oscar. That's a different quest.
What the hell?
You're dumb. Dumbass. You're silly.
Why would this goofball eat a ham sandwich?
Hand sandwich? Sand handwich? Live in large Timbo. That's true. No, time to get searching. Was all on the floor again. Typical.
What are you doing?
Get up. You're embarrassing me.
This is the cistern.
I forgot I can't fall on any greasy. I guess we'll just search for a bit. If I was an undead mummy alive for centuries, where would I hide my heart? In my chest. Cranium rat. Fuck you, cranium rat. I'm confused. Don't kill the cranium rats. Oh, I'm confused more. Too confused to act. If entity's entity wastes the... Okay. Oh my god. Wow, that really ruined my day. I think if you killed, like, if you threw, like, a fireball at a group of cranium rats, I think you would just... Your brain would just pop like a damn zit.
Damn balloons it.
Insert item into Saren's skeleton. No. Oh. You want us to find it?
Ancient lair. Alright.
Oh. It was just a little to the damn left. Wait. Did I go the wrong one?
Where'd you go?
How'd you get in there?
To the Undercity.
Yeah, but there's like a wall. Oh, wait, what? It's... Oh, I guess there's two entrances. A common religious passage often recited as a funeral blessing. Lathander the Lights illuminate a guide, Kemvlor the Judge, and passage provide. A new passage takes over, adding to the common refrain, the darker verse. For those who yet live unworthy in guilt, no God's light shall find what hell they have built. Damn bars.
Got some dead people.
Why?
Oh no.
They don't even look tasty.
Hopefully he doesn't realize we're down here.
I mean, he's gonna realize we're down here. There's no way he's just like, he's gonna leave his heart unguarded.
Fair enough. Oh my god.
Damn. I got spell run. Unless you are undead, each time you cast a spell, you receive 3 to 18 necrotic damage per spell level. In addition, you have disadvantage on all saving throws. Wow, it sucks in here. The door's locked! God damn it. Shit, man. The door got locked when you went in. And I gotta...
It was when I opened the chest.
This greedy bitch. You never loot in the mummy's tomb.
They looked so delicious.
You've seen the mummy with Brandon Frazier?
Fresh.
With Brandon Fresh? You remember, he says, never loot the mummy's tomb, or his servants will spell your doom. Yeah, I think let's just not cast spells. And just do some smacking. You can take a break. You've been doing you know, you had that duel. You can take a break. It's time for us meleers to take care of the horde.
Horse.
Shh. Real and scary, like a hand crawling across the floor. Nice!
Pink and hairy.
Stop.
Like babe pussy. Hello. Nice of you to join us.
Incoming.
Gun.
Ooh, fun.
What the hell?
Gun.
I want a gun. I want a gun.
I want to be a cowboy, baby. These guys have ass movement, and I should know. I have ass movement.
Oh, he's coming.
Ew, every step he takes is moister than the last.
Oh my god.
Fire them.
Idiot.
I love when they can knock down
He has so much trouble.
my back, my pussy, and my crack. Oh. Oh.
Oh, okay.
Ew, the fingers are wiggling and jiggling. Damn, micro movement.
Micro move.
Don't say that.
cheater.
Fire vulnerability. Same. What's that for?
Dreadful.
Mummy rot.
Fuck?
Mummy rot.
Oh my lord.
That's fine, I have a gun! Mummy rot.
This is awkward. What am I supposed to do?
Just chill.
Can I do cantrips?
No. Spells are not allowed. I can't stress this enough. Shut up now.
It's per spell level.
It's per spell level. I mean, but like from a base of 0, I assume. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Oh! Sometimes the zombies go, ooh.
It's time to pull out my gun.
Nice. Are you crypt walking? Or should I say crypt walking? Bones?
Bones?
Hentai flail.
I did it. You guys can deal with this one.
How did I light that chest on fire? The fire was nowhere near that. That's weird. Asshole.
Come on. Dumbass.
So what? I eat drugs. So what? I ate a bug once.
So what? My brown sauce is everywhere.
That didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Okay.
Oh my god. They're gonna hit him. Yeah, get her.
Ooga chaka, ooga 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 chaka, ooga ooga.
Do something. Please. Okay. Idiot.
Zoinks. Yeah, come here. I can't move, so it's good of you, actually.
Kind of sick with it.
Kind of sopping wet. What are you doing? What are you
Oh
doing?
my god.
God, I'm gonna pull my fucking legs off.
Eat them slowly. I'm sorry. Alright, Lizelle, I'm gonna use some of your arrows.
Lizard.
Dumbass. What if your name was Lizard Lethaniel?
I'd kill myself now!
Boom!
Oh, that was crit. Very good.
I'm a part of my crypt.
What?
Crip walking in my Jordans.
That doesn't mean anything. What?
Go down. Go down.
Imagine a zombie go down on you. Talk about some real brain. Get it? Zombie. They love a brain. A tasty snack. These guys are shit at their job.
Absolute munchkins.
Show yourself!
No. Idiot.
My turn.
I'm making an executive decision. Too high? It's lower than me.
What the fuck?
Have him.
I don't want. I don't want.
Let's end this. Have to keep going.
Hello. I'm a pimp named Slickback.
I'm a stink.
I stink.
I'm a stink named Githaloka.
There's too many enemies in here.
There's 3 more.
There's 3 more. There's 4, dipshit.
Fuck? What the hell? Who got the 4th?
Remember Seymour? I mean, no, that's not his name. Fillmore.
See? More of them.
Fillmore. Recesses Disney's Fillmore. He was like, that
What?
chicken was tried, baby, real dry. I don't remember anything except the Fillmore saying that.
Stinkmore.
Fillmore. I'm so used to putting RS3 after everything I Google because I'm trying to find the roots to get wiki. I almost typed Fillmore RS3.
Is he in there?
Probably not. I'm putting it in the chat. He had a little goth baddie. I'll also put it in the stream discussion chat.
God, he should die.
Look at Fillmore's cool.
Black.
Yeah. It's not funny.
I am Fury. I am Death. Gotcha.
I don't remember what the show was even about. I think they were like school detectives or something. Alright, now I'm gonna open another chest and we will not be punished. $92.
$100.
Hanging out with all my
$50.
homies, eyes glowing as red as the night. Like the night
Reaching
of a harvest.
pike staff. Here's your legendary weapon.
Yes! Yes! Blue? It's actually not that bad. I mean, it's not as good as what I have, but it's not that bad.
So we just have this curse on forever? I gotta take this shit off.
No, I think it's just this room. The mummy stink. I shall ascend with him. An ancient stone, cold and damp to the touch. The letters carved on its surface appear to have been drawn by a clumsy and laborious hand. Where is he? Where is he? Promised life eternal, life, glory, riches. Where is he? Okay.
I don't know.
An ancient stone, cold and damp to the touch. the letters carved on it are archaic in form, it is recognizable as the common tongue. The high priest continues to sicken in spite of his Chirurgeon's ministrations. I fear each breath might be his last, but with every exhalation he whispers to me of a means by which he might live on to walk among us still. He does not speak of this method, but I'm sure it is a reliable one. Has he not performed such miracles for others in the name of our necromantic purpose? Has he not adorned himself with the jewels of his powers over death? Were he to succeed, what wealth, what further fortune might he draw to our glorious worship? He even offers me a mere accolade, the honor of sharing this golden immortality with him. I dare not refuse. I cannot afford to. Fuck a key.
I go acapella. What the fuck?
Oh,
there he is.
There who is?
The jar.
Jar of Mr. Carrion's brain, not his heart.
Where's his cock?
Jar's dead. I can't explain it any other way.
I wonder if we... does he use his brain? The 20? What the hell's in here? A 1? That's not good to roll. How many lockpicks do I have left? 7. Ay, ay, ay. Well, I got rolled 2 1s in a row? Okay.
What the hell?
God damn, this chest is impossible. I'm running out of thieves' tools.
The upper part of this tablet describes the necromantic ritual spells implored. Brilliant idea, but not but not an idea of genius, such as the concept it inspires in me. We're better to hide such precious treasure than inside the animated body of a guardian who doesn't even know it's there.
Oh. Wait, so he has guardians holding his body parts.
It's probably with his goon.
Oh. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, it's dude. Oh, so this was his experiment. He tried to put his brain in one. Or maybe that was his next plan. So that his parts are in... Oh, I guess all 4 of his other parts are in his guy.
In his little lad.
Or
they're all inside. That's why they're living? They're inside, like, Thrumbo in them?
No, because he has so many. I think that's just normal-ass necromancy, but maybe his big guy has all his parts, except his brain.
Let me in. I want you.
Don't break the chest. I gotta imagine if you break the chest, it fumbles the bag. I'm thinking a short rest.
It didn't last time.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know what was in there. Could have been much better.
Are you gonna unlock it then? Or are we gonna look for
I only have 5 lockpicks, so I can't afford to do that.
Hopefully this shit wears off. Okay.
Yes.
Hatch?
That's where we came from, you fucking idiot.
God, this guy's a moron. Hello? The fuck is this guy? Oh, hello.
What's wrong with you?
Milton looks at you silently, expectantly.
You good? Okay.
Looks like he wants to
The
kiss.
penitent doesn't respond. Holding your gaze on the penitent.
You gonna
doesn't
kiss him?
respond. Oh, there is the slightest flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes.
Do you have money? You have rare enameled armor. +2 to bonus initiative, resistance to fire. I already have resistance to fire damage. Fire shield warm. Scorching flame shed light in a 3-meter radius. You take only half damage for all cold damage and deal 2 to 16 fire damage to anyone who hits you with a melee attack. Is it better than what I have? I mean, it's kinda cool. +2 to bonus. You know what? Sure, why not? Well, hold up, what's this? Light armor. Yeah, maybe it looks cool. Actually, you know what? I've changed my mind. Hey, give me your thieves' tools, I need these. It's too expensive. It doesn't sound worth it enough. There's so many trap disarming toolkits, but so little traps to disarm.
The brain itself will be a trap. You'll have to roll a 40.
That's impossible to do.
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, just stacking up more funds as I often do. I mean, I guess I have a few more of these tools. I can give it a couple more tries. Alright, well, I guess we can... So I guess we... Oh, maybe the quest will explain what we've just figured out. We found a known Mr. Carey's land and learned that he has been putting canopic jars containing his organs within his zombie servants to preserve his life force. We must tell Thrumbo. Oh. I guess we're keeping Thrumbo in the loop. That's fine. Slow ride. Lock picking's easy. 14? It's possible? Oh wait, no, it's not. I lied.
I mean, that must mean that their body parts are in the zombies.
I think the big guy just has his body parts. Or maybe his, I mean, I guess how would they know? Okay, I got the chest. Oh, his liver. Okay, that was important then. Drink to increase the effectiveness of your spells. You gain 3 arcane acuity, replaces effects.
Within his zombie servants.
I mean,
the guy in there is not a zombie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, that's actually an important specification. If it's in his zombies, then yes, it would be Thrumbo and his gang then. Right. Oh, so they're gonna have to. So they might. So we're either gonna have to find a way to extract them. So I have his brain and his liver.
I mean, we could destroy the brain, make him an idiot.
But wait, if we have his brain and his liver, that means someone has his heart and someone has. Because he had 4 buffs. He had liver, brain, heart. What else did he have?
I don't remember. We get close enough to see.
We can just peek in and look at him. That's the blood room.
Heart, liver, brain, lungs.
What if we take his lungs and just fill them with like
my piss?
I was gonna say, what's that stuff? Marmite? Vegemite. That's what we should do. We take his lungs and then we like nail them to a wall and we just dump a bottle of Vegemite in them. Imagine if your damn lungs had Margemite in them.
Who's mem?
I got hit by a blue shell by Baby Goomba.
Who's Baby Goomba?
So
silly.
Alright, well, let's see how he feels.
You came back. Please, tell me you found a way to destroy Mystic Carrion.
It's inside of you.
What? His rotten heart was inside of me this whole time.
Yeah.
Get it out. I have to get it out.
I mean, oh, no.
Oh. Okay.
I thought we'd be a little less hasty about that. Oh.
Okay.
He didn't even need it.
Spits it out? He just spits out?
Damn, he really...
Slimy bastard.
Zombies are different.
Oh,
Where the hell's are his lungs then?
It must be in another one of them.
Shadow, how you feel about all this? No, she's just horny.
That sounded more.
It's
We'll
okay.
talk to one of them.
Oh yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Then we'll go visit. Someone probably just has this damn lungs. Hey, lumbar. Lungbar! Oh! Whoa!
It's gotta be him.
It's gonna be me!
Find the boats. You'll find Thrumbo.
He doesn't want to talk to me. They just had one dialogue. Okay, guess we'll try. I don't know, I mean, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. We crush all his body parts, ideally within eye shot. To let him know he's about to suffer. I mean, for a guy who thinks he's so goddamn smart, he really didn't think ahead about what happens if the servants find out they have his disgusting body parts in him.
What happens if, you know, someone just reads a fucking tablet? Hey, Sacrum, you got that? Okay.
We could try breaking into this apothecary. I mean, people aren't gonna like me for it, but people don't like me already.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Crimson Draught's hatch key. So this is the place that got shut down because people who came here for like medicine were like doing way worse. Oh no. Okay, one blood cult at a time. Let's come back and look at this later. It's called a Sanguine Laboratory, and nowhere called a Sanguine Laboratory has ever been full of good, fun things to see.
What is it?
Let's worry about Mystic Karen first, before we get into that blood orgy. Blorgy, if you will.
You want to destroy his heart in front of him?
Yeah, like a lot. I don't know, we could just, like, do it now. I don't want to risk, like, going in and then he's, like, he shoots his mummy ray at me. And stops me.
The only thing I want to do is I want to try to talk to him.
Okay, just let me save first. Alright. Let's put this pussy in his place.
Hello.
We don't take kindly to necromancers in these parts.
Hush, spirits. I sense it too. Our guest brings with him the stench of Thrumbo's disobedience.
This guy seems like he'd pretend to hear voices. Wait, this guy's like, oh, Withers is just an eternal mummy man.
I'm not giving the jar to him.
I mean, I think we just tell him we have the jar, but we're not actually gonna, you know, give it to him.
Is your preferred course? To change the terms of our
Like he's built like Withers, which is never a way to be built. The Torch of Revocation is, I guess that's his weapon. I mean, we say it like we're not gonna do it anyway. I think there's no end where this guy isn't corpsed.
20. Oh no.
I mean, if a fight starts, just throw it at a wall.
How disappointing. I hoped Thrumbo's disobedience would die with him.
Why is he whispering?
Oh.
Ah! Oh.
Oh! Hello!
Alright, let's see. Let's see. Jar of Mystic Karen's brain. Throw. How about we throw it at you? What? It hurt me? When I threw it?
Did it go right back to you? No.
It also didn't break, so I guess I'm shooting it.
No! Damn. I was gonna throw the heart.
That's okay. One thing at a time.
Here's the heart!
It's like hurting us? That's weird. Well, hold up. It explodes. Let me get away from it. Wait, also let me get the liver in there. Let me send that the old shadow heart. Use a throw. Okay. Time to light the fireworks.
This is gonna be good.
Just gonna hit this guy.
Unbeating heart, curdled liver, the breathless lungs. Wonder where his liver was. Or his lungs, I mean.
Let's go.
Alright, now when we kill his
now
ass,
he
he'll
just-
stay down.
You just can't be silenced, that's all.
Where's Lizelle? Oh, she's just here. Ugh. Hey, Olnar.
Please let me out!
Please! I don't even like him! Oh, he farts on us.
What?
You know.
It works!
Oh!
Okay.
Grow up. Hit points is reduced by 8. I don't like that. God. Zombie ass guy. I think we just focus him down. Surely he gets rid of all his gross little friends. Good thing they all suck ass. Oh, the little 8. Oh no. Yeah, we gotta get out of this. You cannot be healed. Oh, mummy rot. That's less than good. Well, I guess just do as much damage as you can.
Okay, it didn't tell me I was gonna get opportunity. That's fucking cool.
Very nice, very nice. Okay. I'm nauseous. I can't use actions. God damn it.
Fuck.
What an awkward place to be. The hell was that?
Awful.
Oh my word.
19 turns of Mummy Rod. Fantastic. She's never living again. Oh my god.
Jesus Christ, Cloudkill is a problem. I can't even heal her. She just has to make the throws. Finally, a fair fight.
Stop it. Oh my fuck!
It's just out of my range. Golly. Ugh. He was
Wait, are you gonna put it here?
Smallest bit out of my range. Or could have killed him. Stop, stop, please. You're embarrassing me. God, this place is a freaking mess.
Weirdo. Cloudkill's so awful. Stop it!
Hey, dickhead, I can move now.
An overdue slaughter. Alright, lots of disgusting ghouls.
Whew. Zombies are gross.
Resuscipuffus.
Don't say that. Portrait of a noble before his death. They took that on the damn toilet. What the hell?
Who walks so forward? Damn. It's not working. Get over it. Got one on 5 HP. I'm gonna die.
You're not mummy rotted. You can drink a delicious potion.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I could have healed.
You shouldn't die. Ah, dare you survive?
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Oh, lordy, the lordy.
Good spot here. Like 10. Can't find me.
Sit on the padded sofa.
I'm going to take a nap.
You don't even have eyes, idiots. Come on, man.
Embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Oy.
The city's changed.
No kidding. Alright. Get on up now, get on up.
Fading fast. I need healing.
Oh, let's get up.
Oh, hey, Thrumbo. I mean, Lumbar.
Oh, hey. Why?
Oh,
You're all here.
Everyone's back.
You did it. He's gone. He's real. I don't know how to thank you. We can finally be free.
Live a beautiful, full, done life.
Please take this. I think it's valuable.
It's his lungs.
And I will need it. Not now, Carrion's.
It's his wiener.
It's the wiener of Carrion.
Do you have a trait?
No, go away.
I think I'll pick up where Carrion left off. A city like this needs a medium.
Alright, you know how to deal with ghosts?
Ghostly ghouls?
That's what we originally came here for. We really got away from
Crypt
that, though.
Lord Ring. Yeah, right.
The Torch of Revocation. Free the artist. Did we need the Torch of Revocation for that?
I guess it's what's to free him. I don't remember.
We found Oscar on the list of Mystic Carrion's clients. It's revealed that the Torch of Revocation can be used to destroy the cursed portrait. We need to find one. Oh, did it? I hadn't read it yet. What follows is a musty list of items, use, client, and location. Items to be acquired. Doll of the Necromancer's Reanimation, Ashta Geldeg, Esperta, Bone of the Abyssal Depth, Soul Settlement, Fifth Wind Kendrick, a Moonshay, Torch of Revocation, Burning of Tormented Spirits Anchor, Oscar Ferris, Baldur's Gate. Righto. Alright, well, got it. It's a club. Oh, it's actually a torch. I can equip it. This is my torch now.
He drops some armor, but I guess you probably don't want it.
You don't know. You don't know anything about me, man. You don't even know my middle name.
Greg.
Wrong.
Wow.
It's Giant.
What?
A toast to your kindness and to Carrion rotting in his grave.
True. I told you it'd be safe, brothers. This is our home now. Okay, I mean, y'all need help cleaning up because this place sucks.
Now we're just gonna take over his house.
You're never gonna get this blood out of the carpet. You gotta get the whole thing replaced. That's gonna cost you a pretty I mean, you got your work cut out for you.
Problem.
Oh, it's a wood floor under the carpet. Oh,
everything smells.
Oh, you are just never gonna get this place cleaned. You're gonna have to redo the entire floor, probably underneath the floor. Oh, I don't envy you, that's for sure. Alright, I say we go banish a ghost and call it a day.
Better go.
What?
Better go.
What?
Huh?
Vorp.
Beef?
Good. I was just starting to miss the sound of your voice. Fine. What's on your mind?
We still gotta figure out where Shadowheart's parents are, also?
I don't even know at this point.
I mean, we haven't
where
really
have they
looked
not
into...
fucking searched?
I don't know. We'll have to look more into her quest to figure out the details. I haven't actually looked at it. Did I hear someone take damage?
Hello, we're back to Ganesh the Ghost.
Ganesh Ghost.
A Ganesh Gustus.
A banished ghost, a banished ghost, a big fat ghost.
Onion Man, Onion Man.
Feeding old people hands. God, I'd love to kick the shit out of the elderly right about now.
Love to eat that loose skin.
Stop. Alright. Well, they really got away from us, but we got there. Look what I got!
Tee. Alright.
Get exercised, bitch! Oh no.
Where is he? Where is he?
Oh my god.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Bye. Have you gone looking for him, or are you dead? I don't understand.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, she's down here.
Uh-oh. Should have known better than this wouldn't end that easily.
Harrowed. Hey! Stop it!
You are mean. But where's Janath?
She's on the ground. Okay, damn.
You're blue. Shut up. Please. Don't take orders from
My
blues.
darling, listen to me.
You brought me here. You did. Do not interfere. He's coming home with me.
Obviously not. Who are you?
I got a new.
What the hell is this guy?
We can resolve this piece.
Who wants to control me?
It doesn't sound like what I said.
Hold me here. Trapped me. Pathetic little childish boy.
I only wished to explain myself to make you see how.
No! Enough of your whining. Enough! Selfish, arrogant bastard of an artist. I wanted to be left in peace. And how does that help me? Or is it just to help him? Why does everything always have to revolve around Oscar Beverus?
Just leave.
What did I do to you?
Save your tears for the ethereal plane.
It'll break you.
This definitely seems like some ghostly psychosis. Psychostus. Get it?
Easy.
What are you saying? You're trying to confuse me. It's so hard to think. I don't remember.
Crush her head.
Kerry, my sweet meat.
Ugh.
Ew!
Kill him now!
Oh my god, never mind. Kill him!
My sweet meat?
Why am I here?
Vile.
I shouldn't be.
The spirit's aura flickers, changes. She is confused, lost, dragged here unwillingly by a man who refused to let her leave.
I mean, I'm kind of feeling 4, but I don't know. Like, he just doesn't owe this dude anything. This kind of fucked up that he brought her here just to... Just messed up, dude. Get over it.
I mean, I kind of want to just tell her to go. No longer bonded. Leave.
Yes, yeah.
And let Oscar walk away. No. I won't do it. You're a worthless human being and a worse artist, Oscar Beverus.
Damn.
Never should have brought me here.
Oh, okay.
Love is such a complicated thing, I don't get it.
Fickle beans.
I wouldn't say that. Alright, well,
Who are all your ghouls? Who are these people? I don't like how you're on top of me, woman.
Ew.
Get off.
Jesus. I mean, you know, if you bring the dead back to life just for your own selfish means, you really got to expect this type of thing at a better point.
A better boy.
What?
What? Just leave! Get out! Uh-oh.
Anime screech.
That's not good. Oh, okay. Hit it with the torch again!
Get banished. Ain't good enough. I guess I should pull my sword out. Maybe we knock her out. I think we can talk her down.
Can you really knock out a ghost?
Well, I mean, I think we're gonna long rest, so I just counterspell this and
Just don't know what level it is. Just not telling me. So. Is she charging up like a bull? No, you've confused my man! I saved confused, but I still don't get to go? The fuck?
One, two, or three.
Square root of 9.
Pick a fucking number.
I did.
1, 2, or 3.
3. Ew, no, I don't want this guy. Fuck this guy.
He's talking.
He's big ass. Here we go again.
He didn't go? I don't understand.
That's gonna hurt.
Sword. I use as my action. That's funny. Leave! Should've just fucking hit her.
Possession.
I don't want to be possessed right now.
Oh. The hell? Oh my god.
Just wait. He's gonna do something cool. I don't know if I control him or how it works. I mean, he's a level 6 summon. Surely he's dope. Oh, Jesus.
Wonder if there was more to the necromancy thing. I mean, I doubt it. We're no longer harrowed. I forget what it even did.
I knew it should. Oh my god, he's got moves. Sweet plum gales. What the hell? This guy's got some weirdo moves. God damn, he is strong. That's fair.
Well,
check
you
this
drunk?
out. Yes! He's having fun.
I hope he dies.
When?
Now.
Okay.
Dispel him now.
No, he's good. I just misplayed. He makes people drunk. If that works, he pulls people towards them and does poison damage. And then he's got... He had quite a few moves. Also, normal attack just seems to do a lot of damage. I mean, it works better if they're not immune to poison.
Stop.
You aren't escaping me. Zoinks. Wait, let me do it. I got cool things like this.
What the fuck?
Wasn't that epic to see?
Oh, I've got the coolest.
Oh, this is a
moves.
bonus action? I can just do this. Don't hurt me.
I've got the coolest move.
No.
Gods, what a mess I've made of it all.
Yeah, you're a real fuckhead.
Sweet Firelia, I can explain everything.
I don't want to hear it. You nearly got us killed. Oh, gods, I'll be a laughing stock when this comes out.
But my love, I did it for us. How else was I to put her behind me? My friend here can vouch for me. For how seriously I took our marriage.
You summoned a ghost.
Not wrong.
This isn't I don't know. I don't know enough. But you seem like a fucking moron. You figure it
That's just
out.
the problem, isn't it? It was never just the two of us. I know we're neither of us in our first flush of youth, but this... it's untenable.
So Zelda, man.
I want you gone from this house by nightfall.
This is awkward.
Perhaps your next patron will be more forgiving than I.
I understand, Firelia, and truly, I am sorry.
I don't know.
You may as well have this. Consider it payment for allowing me to see the truth at last.
We summon our dead ex-partners from the dead. Sometimes we have to deal with the consequences, I think. A ring that lets me do Beacon of Hope. Just what I wanted. If I rage, will that turn off? Actually, I'm gonna test it. Oh, I can't rage not in combat. Let's see, rage. Deals an additional... Cannot cast or concentrate on spells. Okay, so that doesn't work. Every ring I get sucks. Do you want the Shadow Heart? What do you have? Yeah, free Beacon of Hope. Better than 3 meters of move speed.
There is work to do.
3 Peters of Peter! We all use this one.
We should go to Oscar and ask for the reward we were promised.
We promised the reward? For what?
I mean, for killing her, I guess.
Why was it red to loot these dead people? God, all these houses are gonna need some thorough cleanups.
Ah, my friend! I'm sorry I dragged you into this unpleasantness. Hardly the way I had hoped we would be reunited. But a true artist embraces his suffering. No doubt I'll be the finer painter for it. Eventually.
Man, I don't care where you end up. Just give me my shit.
And one day you shall have it. But I
Bitch.
feel this particular phase of my artistic career has come to an
Yeah, I guess I can't blame him.
conclusion, if you will.
I
I'm
won't.
going to take some time and reinvent myself. Find a new source of inspiration. I think I'll try my hand at landscape painting. I've heard that Schult Peninsula has the most splendid sunsets.
Maybe you deserve this. Fucking idiot. Alright, I guess we'll do a long rest and call it for now. We still have so much to figure out before we go to the end of the game. We had to figure out how to get to the House of Hope, I think it's called. Shadowheart's parents. Much to do, much to do. But for now, we rest longfully. Let's maybe do it somewhere else. I don't want to be in this lady's hole.
In the devil's feed.
Don't say that. Alright. What a day! Wait, I'm gonna quick save because you never know what's gonna happen at camp. Shit gets damp at camp, if you know what I'm... Vamp!
Dampy campy.
Don't say that.
Dampy campy.
Stop it! Damn, Lizelle, you got hot.
Thank you.
What's up, Yana?
I made soup. Want some?
I love soup. Okay, bye. Don't say that to me. You got any, what are you up to, Val?
Whatever happens next, be sure that I will document it all as accurately as possible.
What the hell? What did you just do?
I put a bomb in the Dejin's pocket.
And who?
Dejin. Dejinny.
The Jinn? Pronounced
We got
Jinn.
a D in front.
Jinn.
It's also Jinny.
It's called a Jinn.
Yeah, well, his name is Dejinny.
You're stupid, man. Snarl! Doesn't work on friends. Actually. Snarl! Alright, leave him alone. He's really quite nice.
You smell very delicious, but I will not bite you.
Thanks, man.
Ooh, more.
That was Scratch's. Oh, Scratch?
Alright.
Is moonwalking?
Hope you're keeping well, friend.
I'm not. Get petted. What's up, Lizelle? How are you?
Stop wasting my time.
I'd fucking tear you limb from limb if I could.
We'll talk later. We're in the camp, bitch.
Leave!
I just want to have a chat. What do you think now?
Hey, babe. Did you use a scroll for that? We haven't saved yet.
No.
How long does this last? Now she won't talk to me because I smell like a sheep.
True.
What are you doing? What the fuck is wrong with you?
What?
We haven't saved. Don't do stupid shit.
We're about to rest. What do you mean?
Don't know how she'll react. She doesn't like you. Ugh. Can I yell at Emperor for letting that fucking guy die? I'm pissed at him. Prick'em dickum. Wait. Oh yeah. Wait. There's something I must do. Can I dye my camp gear? Oh hell yeah. I'm so svelte. Let's do sinful red and white and bone. Oh hell yeah. I'm fresh as shit. Can I just have this armor override all the time? This is drip to me. Overshoes. What? What does that mean? This is who I am now. I'm a rich bitch with a big attitude. Dude, no! You look like a goblin humper.
What's your point?
Why is it moving my stuff around? Don't do that. No, probably because of the torch. What is squealing? I feel like I thought there was something I wanted to do, but maybe not. Oh, here, wait, let me, before we save, it's before, so I don't forget next time. I remember, what did the feast thing do? It was like pretty good, right? I'm wondering if I should have an ally. Everyone around you can't be poisoned, diseased, or frightened. You know what? Let's do that. I mean, playing our ally is pretty freaking sweet, but... Wait, why can't I unequip it? Oh, there we go. It's just weird lag. Oh, good. We get to deal with them all day. My favorite. Okay, let's leave and then Heroes Feast, so I don't forget to do it next time. And then we'll start from there. Does it work on everyone? Are we all eating good? If I could find the move. Oh yeah, we're all feasting. We're all thoroughly stuffed.
Well,
alright. Come next time, we're really gonna cry.
We're gonna run this town.
Oh yeah, I forgot we also just get a bunch of food. Wait, let me save. Wait, I forgot I picked up the food. I gotta save again. Okay. You'll never catch me alive. Careful, someone might get hurt. That's true.
Right, I'm so sorry. I want to see what this does.
Let's get on with it.
Sorry, I need you to die, sir. No! No! He's so fast.
Oh? Why are you mad? Oh my god! What the hell?
My way.
He went. Da, da.
You were witnessed assaulting someone. You're headed for the cells.
No.
Kill her. Kill him now. Get out. You're not a part of this.
What the fuck is going on?
What? Why
Oh,
can't you be reading?
everyone's exploding. Wait, pick me up. I do want to try something.
Medium or small corpse? Is he count as big?
Oh, no, wait, never mind. I forgot I used my level 6 spell. Shadowheart's big!
We do it!
Kill that child, he's small.
Okay, he just lives? Come on, man.
They probably can't let kids die for writing stuff.
Fake game. I can't test my spell.
Oh, he's better.
Oh god, he's
And he's redder than ever.
perfectly fine.
Lars.
Whatever.
Okay, thanks for watching. I'm gonna play a different video game.
I'm gonna go eat
When?
a bucket.
Don't eat buckets. They have no calories.
Goodbye.
How many calories are in a bucket? Not a bucket of KFC fried chicken, just the bucket.
Why not? What about a bucket of 7 pieces of toast?
What? Why'd you put toast in a bucket?
Why wouldn't you?
Because toast doesn't need to be in a bucket. When pizza's on a bagel, pizza's breakfast anytime.
Who are you?
Leave now.
Go to s-
Alright. Alright, boys. Final Fantasy. Lightnings has returneth. And is traumatized as shit. Not much to say, let's just get into it. So we're continuing from my New Game Plus file. Wait, why is it... Hold up. Controller type, please. Continue. I can't delete this. I guess it's autosave. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so we're doing a playthrough where, like, you know, just a normal story playthrough, but with, on New Game Plus, so I have pretty much everything. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. Let's talk to good old Hope.
What can I get you?
Why did you say it like that? About Hope,
Who am
because...
I exactly? It's a question I don't have the answer to. I don't
Did
know
he have
how
that?
I know the things
Is
I
the neck thing new?
I don't know who gave me the
He didn't
knowledge.
have that in
It's
13,
not that
right?
I have forgotten my past.
I don't remember
Some
that.
memories are still there, and I can summon them when I want. It's just that I can't recall the emotions they should evoke, as if they're images of someone else's life. I know that I once lived in a great city on the surface of the planet. I know that Snow and I joined forces to try and battle the menace of the chaos. And then, suddenly, I was here. I tried to find out what happened. According to records that still survived, the man called Hope Estime disappeared 169 years ago. But the records and my memory end there. What happened after that? I can only assume I was in the hands of God. I was part of his plan. So he took me and prepared me for the role that I had to play.
Christians hate him. About the Ark.
The Ark is the remains of the artificial cocoon.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
Back when humanity still dared to dream of greatness, Bunavelza has repurposed the world we built. This is where the souls of the saved are kept, ready to be reborn in the new world. But the people down on the surface have forgotten what this stands for and simply call it a moon.
Right, I forgot about that. So the Ark is the husk of cocoon they tried to lift, or they did lift into the sky at the end of 13-2, except no one ever got to live here because shit got bad.
The destruction began 500 years ago. But
Oh, 500. I thought it was
when the
700.
chaos first flooded into our world. Most of the world was lost immediately under the ocean of chaos. Only one small region survived. The survivors call their island of refuge Nova Chrysalia. The chaos brought destruction, and a kind of immortality too. Suddenly, everyone stopped growing. It was like we'd lost our time. But if that was a gift, it was a poisoned one. We could not age, and neither could new life be born. There were no more children, but although we were ageless, we were not immune to death. Sickness, accidents, and violence could still kill us. Life remained as fragile as it had always been, and so humanity began a new chapter of its history. The population slowly shrinking, the survivors falling into an ennui born of lives that last too long. Eventually, new creeds took hold and new legends created. One of these told of the Savior,
What a nightmare.
the servant of God. She would descend to Nova Chrysalia at the end of the world, humanity's last chance for salvation.
Fun.
If you're ready to go, stand in front of the warp device.
Alright, let's get saving. Wait. Can I customize my garb color? Oh, I have already customized it. It's darker. Can I have pants? Please. Wait. Oh, I can make extras. I don't know why I would want to, but I can. Damn, she fresh. My biggest worry right now is that, like, all the enemies and fights in the game are gonna be like a cakewalk, and I'm a little worried about that. I don't want to be, like, overpowered.
City of Light, and you need to find out what's going on.
I hate listening to Hope talk like a robot. I know it's on purpose, but it's unnerving. Which I guess is maybe the point. Whoops. Damn, she's cool. And she doesn't stand out at all. That was a great sound to hear. Does the Ark have a ring around it? Oh. MySpace? Oh, I don't like that.
Luxarian, a bustling metropolis, the divine city of light, and the holy sea of salvation. It's the last bastion of peace and order in a dying world. Most of the people who live here worship the almighty Benevelza. The city's governed in his name by a powerful religious sect known as the Order of Salvation. God's followers believe in ultimate redemption, and their faith helps keep the fires of hope burning. But even in this pious city, a darkness lurks untouched by divine light. A heresy that rejects the teachings of Supreme Benevelza.
It's another girl.
How awful.
I bet it's the heretics doing.
The divine city doesn't look so holy now.
Roasted.
This was no
God,
accident.
she's so cool.
The girl was left here intentionally.
Shut up.
Help her! There's no need. Just a dummy. Hope, did you see who dropped it? They must still be close.
My sensors didn't pick up anything at all. I'm running a search of the city's video database, but I'm coming up blank so far.
Doesn't matter. I'll just find out myself.
The evil savior will die at the hands of the Shadow Hunter. Okay.
Luxarian. The divine city of light. Is that what they call it? Trouble is, the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows.
The body of a young woman is found in the plaza in front of Luxarian's North Station. It is just the latest in a string of murders in which the victim was a woman with the same color hair as Lightning. Someone be going after the savior herself. Lightning needs to question witnesses in the area and report whatever she learns to the Inquisitor in charge of the investigation. I have a lot of money.
It looks like someone's targeting the savior. Let's see if we can find out anything from the crime scene.
We need to solve this case quickly. Luxarian is the city of divine light, yet it has
What is going on with your hair?
in 3 days. The people seem to be growing fearful. If you find out anything at all, I'd be anxious to hear it. There are similarities among the victims. They have all been young women, and all of them had rose-colored hair. Yes, just the same shade as yours.
Oh, that cat!
Become a target of the
What the hell is that thing, man? What the fuck?
Lend a hand. It could be an opportunity to save a soul. The Savior's mission is to rescue the souls of people trapped in prisons of pain and suffering. By forming a bond with them, you can lead their souls to salvation.
Okay. Hell yeah. Just what I needed, more money.
Who killed the girl brought that dummy here. It's important evidence. Don't touch it. The victim had rose-colored hair, and the wig on that dummy was of the same color. The killers appear to believe that the evil savior will take the form of a young woman with rose-colored hair. Everything points to this being the work of those heretics, children of Etro. But why are they so sure what the savior will look like?
That's vital information. For your safety. Good work, Light. At this rate, we'll solve the murder in no time.
This is my favorite spot. Hang out here long
Why?
enough and you get to see all kinds of things. Like those white-garbed loonies, for example. The children of Etro are heretics. And
Fred the KKK was in this.
Those Etro fanatics used to keep a low profile, but recently I see them everywhere. The Order's authority isn't what it was. Now those people wander the streets like they own the place. Do you think they know something we don't? Maybe they have a date for the end of the world. Who knows?
Thanks, surveying man.
I'm pretty sure the Inquisitor can use the information.
It can't be. Damn it. It's not like him to be late. But what if... No, couldn't be that.
Something wrong? Not about those murders, is it?
God, no. At least I hope not. You see, it's the end of my shift, and I'm waiting for my replacement, but he hasn't shown. He's been late before, but never as bad as this.
You're starting to worry, right?
He likes to make out he's a tough guy, but he isn't at all, frankly. His name's Holmes. If you run into him, do me a favor, will you? Tell him Thornton's worried and needs to go home.
Needs to go Holmes, right? Right? Hello? Needs to go Holmes.
If I see anyone in uniform wandering around where they're not supposed to be, I'll talk to him.
I'm Thornton's colleague Holmes is currently hiding near the inn in the station plaza. Look for a man wearing a station attendant. This quest can only be completed tonight. If it's not completed before 6 a.m., you will have failed the quest. No pressure. So, like, there's, like, outfit stores and stuff, but,
This has become quite the predicament. Those messages say that the Shadow Hunter will kill the Savior. Sounds pretty...
I probably, like, own all of them.
If you believe what you hear around town, it seems that the children of Etro have an Oracle Drive. That's a rare thing. They say Oracle Drives are mysterious devices that can let you see the very future. The Heretic's prophecy. I can't even imagine what it must show. But apparently it's enough to drive them to murder.
Shut up and drive, am I right? Get it? It's a reference. What? Can't... Oh, I can't buy for anything with him.
The evils. I'd heard of the Shadow.
The evils?
He's the head of that
Oh.
band of
I don't know. I just mashed her like he was gonna say something generic. I don't know why.
At any rate, it's hardly surprising that people think those Etro fanatics are behind this recent string of murders. But is this man they call
Murderer.
pulling their strings?
Okay. Why do you talk like a villain?
Good work, Light. At this rate, you'll solve the murder in no time.
Well, you're just standing over here. Go do your job.
If they find out what I know,
The Order needs as much information.
As sure as my name is Holmes. Alright, leading it a bit much. It's the murder, main quest, an evil savior.
You work at the station, don't you? Your fellow attendants worried about you.
Oh no, is it time for my shift already? I completely lost track of time. Look, can I trust you? I saw who did it. You know, the people who threw the dummy off the clock tower?
Imagine you didn't find this guy until 6 a.m.
That's where they'll look for me.
You were there? What did you see exactly? You have to tell me.
I don't have to do anything. But if you can protect me from those people and get me to the station, I'll tell you all about it.
It's literally 8 steps.
And then I'll talk.
Okay.
We'll appreciate the help.
Big baby. There we go, we did it. You couldn't have figured that one out on your own?
The Order operates the
Rat bastard.
system. It's the city's lifeblood. The trains stopping at this station carry people and bring goods from Houston.
Holmes, you're safe. I was so worried about you, I could barely concentrate on my duties.
Gross.
Sorry, boss. I saw what happened over where they found the girl. I guess I just panicked. I don't know why I got so scared.
Probably the
Sorry I let you
corpse.
down. It won't happen again.
Never mind, I'm just glad to see you're safe. Guess I never told you. Well, years ago, one of my colleagues was killed by a monster. I was afraid the same thing had happened to you. I panicked and asked this lady for help.
I can't believe no one told me that when I took this job. But anyway,
It's not really relevant.
Sorry for the trouble, boss. From now on, I swear to you, I'm never going to be late. I mean, what if your heart gave out or something with worry? Can't have that on my conscience.
A true friend that
Don't care that
cares.
much.
Maybe that's enough to save a soul.
Oh, I'm just gonna get more stats.
Well, a deal's a deal. You got me here safe and sound, and so I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw. It was the children of Etro. They tossed the dummy off the tower.
Well, yeah. Anyone could put that shit together.
Honestly, I did. But I was afraid those heretics might find out and make me their next victim.
The Inquisitor will definitely be very interested in this information. When I talk...
I always said those people would cause trouble. And I was right.
Racist.
Every night I can see them, those weirdos in their white cloaks sneaking around the streets. Whenever I see white, I think, ugh, heretic. If there's one thing I know, that
Ma'am?
wicked shadow hunter, he's the ringleader of the heretics.
Phrasing?
Those fanatics are growing bold. Nowadays, there's always a gang of them in the plaza in front of the station. It's as if they are meeting to go someplace else. Speaking of which, it's usually around this time they start to show up.
That's vital information.
This game's racist.
At this rate, you'll solve the murder in no time.
No one, absolutely no one doubts that the people behind the killings are those heretics. The Order is conducting its inquisitions based on that assumption.
Based.
The Etro fanatics who worship the goddess of death are all over the place. Just look for the sinister groups huddled together, dressed head to toe in white. It may mean nothing, but some people have witnessed the Etro heretics using the public phone near the graveyard. Furtive conversations in the streets. Prowling the city at night. It makes you wonder what they're up to.
So the culprits are the children of Etro? But what's their objective? What could they be after?
Let's find out. Once the gates are opened, I'll try tailing them. Discreetly. It'll be the easiest way to find their hideout. I'll talk to the Inquisitors. Hopefully get these gates open.
1 second. Am I using this outfit for any specific reason? Quick stagger. I don't think I care about the stagger. I don't think that's... I guess I don't know what I want. 4,000 strength. Okay. I like don't want to use the weapon that's like max damage. It just feels a little... I don't know. I just don't want the game to be like a wash. I don't know, I'll just use what I have. I guess I was using that because it was like a blank canvas. God, some of these outfits are so weird, man. Let's do this one. What did I have on this? Oh, wait, this is my magic one. Oh. Again, it's all mixed up. Okay, wait. Magic by 20% increases damage dealt to enemies when they are beyond a certain range. I don't want business eyewear. I need a mustache. That's pretty good. Come on, man. This shit's weird. Oh, that's a look. I mean, how are you gonna not put capes in? I'm just saying. This makes her look like she's a traveling musician, which it really is, should help me keep my disguise up. I'm not the savior. I'm just a traveling musician. Unicorn Mart logo. What the hell? What? That's still so weird, man. Yeah, that's a country album right there. Fuck your ears, I'm pandering. You know what? That's good. Well, I don't delete it. Yep. Hello, I found... Where'd he go?
The horror continues. Another victim has been discovered.
Where'd the man go?
I knew the latest victim.
Oh. Wait, is that... No, that's not him.
The Order clergy. She'd been a rising star, destined to become the next High Priestess. But then she was...
Oh, stretching my legs.
Ah! The sword was said. And then this.
Oh, God. Where'd that dude go?
The Inquisitor should know that heretics are involved.
He's in a phone booth.
Unlocked as soon as possible.
If you know anything about the case, I'd be glad to hear it.
The goddess's disciples are beginning to gather. If you lift the blockades around this area, there's a good chance they'll start to move out.
You're suggesting I let them go? It's not a bad idea. Yes, I'll give the order and we'll see where the heretics lead us. We've managed to find some eyewitnesses, and we think we know who it was that strung the dummy from the tower.
Let me guess. The children of Etro, right?
Ah, you have your own sources, I see.
Yeah, regular
The
people.
heretics have become more visible on the streets of our holy city. The poor, benighted fools don't believe in God's salvation. Clearly, their despair has led them to carry out these wanton acts. If only they would open their eyes, embrace God, and they could bathe in the pure light of His almighty grace.
Alright, calm down.
Can't they see that their souls would be liberated in the new world? The irony of it all is that their fanatical rejection of the Savior has only made my own faith that much stronger. Although, perhaps that is the work of the Savior herself.
If you think your faith will save you, then go ahead. Believe all you want.
Idiot. Well, okay. Well, I don't like that everyone's looking at me. I can shop.
I'm surprised you've heard of me.
I haven't. I don't know who the hell you are. Platinum Millstone. I guess this is for upgrading things, but I don't think I need to do that.
Alright, take off. Require a room?
Oh no.
Again, anytime.
Welcome in. Come back again.
So, trail heretics near the station from midnight. Oh, so I got 2 hours to kill. Anything to do? Guess we just go for a walk. Take in the town.
Light, I'm detecting monsters.
Cool.
Move carefully through this area. Light, you can escape from battle when you're truly desperate, but it comes with a price. All miracles do.
A price? What kind of price?
$8.
Your time, and that of this world. The more you run, the less souls you'll save. In short, you'll give up about an hour of your precious 13 days.
That seems bad.
Welcome. Are you looking for rare items from the wildlands? I've got a mighty fine selection.
Where's a Shaolong Wii shell for 600? Yeah, sure.
I see you're a woman who
I assume it's for a side quest.
It's a mighty fine product, that one. This is used for only the finest medicines. I was afraid I'd never be able to sell this baby. Thank goodness you came along to change that. It's a little rich for most folks. To thank you for your patronage, I'll let you in on a little secret. I run a legit business, as you can see for yourself. But I do have some, shall we say, friends in the Warren.
I'm listening.
I see I've caught your interest. I sensed that you were looking for something.
Oh.
Just don't delve too far into that area. You don't know what kind of people you'll run into. But if you do decide that you want to go in and out as you please, I can be of some assistance.
What does that mean? Okay. Fair item.
I want something to commemorate my trip.
Okay. Oh, wowie zowie. Spark Strike level 2. Oh, the dog! Oh, God. It has every disease you could ever want. You tend a quill pen.
It looks like one of those old-fashioned pens. It also looks like someone deliberately buried it here.
Hello, child. Cannot talk to you. Oh, God.
Blessed be, friend. What can I provide?
Oh. Oh, boy. Hey. I can level up disaster. Yeah, let's enhance it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you for your interest.
I'm starting to think that playing through, I could see there's a carbuncle there. I mean, I know what that quest is for, or I know what that's for.
See something?
Am I just buying these? I'm gonna buy everything I don't own, I guess. I'm a collector of sorts. A well-balanced longsword that raises magic and strength. Ultimate. Okay. That was a lot of money I just spent. Fetch a good... Oh, this is just for selling, I guess. Well, Fame Metal, fetch a good price at shops. Okay. Oh, this is all just for selling. Okay. I don't know, I'm starting to think more and more that playing through on a... For the story specifically, playing through with an established file was not the move. It's making everything feel less substantial, which is not really the way you want to feel. Let's upgrade all of this. Okay. Yes, I'm pretty sure on your first playthrough you can't do this. Like, there's no equipment upgrading. That made that way stronger. Holy shit. I don't know, I'm kind of having second thoughts. What sucks is probably at this point, it's probably already gone over my save, so I probably have to restart. Yeah, I'm thinking... Yeah, I think I'll call it. Yeah, let's do a playthrough on a new file. I think playing on this... I think... playing on New Game Plus... kind of... Like, it's a different focus. Like, it takes a... Like, if I'm playing on New Game Plus, my focus isn't, like, you know, re-experiencing the story and... experiencing... You know, it's because you have all those things established already. You've already done all that, and that's... And I mean, I have done all that before, but, like... Again, that's not what this playthrough's for. So, I think what I'll do is I will get to this point off stream, with a new save, and then we'll start from here next time. I think I need to end the stream anyway because I'm feeling a little fuzzy head-wise, and I need to eat. So, yeah, I think that's probably gonna be better. Cause like, yeah, I mean, just having everything already is like just. I mean, it makes all the aspects of the game less impactful, which is not the game's fault. That's what New Game Plus. Like I said, that's what New Game Plus is for. It's you come in with a different focus. But that's not what I want out of this playthrough. So save this, and then we'll start next time with on a fresh save. But thanks for watching. Well, I mean, maybe I'll be live tomorrow. I don't know. It's all over the place. Have a lovely evening. Thanks for the support. Thanks again to Spencer for subbing, and even I mean, you shouldn't waste your money on this stream, but I'm not gonna tell you how to live. That's all. Bye.